On a busy warehouse dock, a manager slices a temp worker's backpack strap with a box cutter during a public scolding. A shipping clerk steps in, buys a replacement strap, gives up her belt to keep a pallet moving, and gets suspended for defying him. Her small act leads to quiet changes on the floor that restore dignity and make help easier to ask for. Just a quick note before we begin. Hit like, share this with a friend, and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. It always amazes me how far these stories travel. The box cutter clicked, then flashed. A thin nylon strap snapped, and a backpack strap fell loose with a slice you could hear over the fans. The backpack slipped off his shoulder and hit the concrete with a thud. A banana burst. A pen skittered toward a puddle. The young man froze with his hands up and his eyes wide like he was waiting for another cut. Personal bags off the dock, the shift manager said. He held the cut strap up like a trophy. You want a strap? You buy a strap. Not my inventory. His radio hissed on his shoulder, the countdown to a same-day truck ticking. Forklifts beeped in and out of Bay 3, diesel and dust in the air. The young man wore two small hearing aids tucked behind his ears. He stared at the cut strap, then at the floor. He bent to scoop his things. He moved slow, careful, as if any quick move might make the knife come back. A folded paper, a small spiral notebook, a handful of coins, a bus pass, the split banana, everything slid over the gritty concrete. Mara jerked her scanner up like a shield. She stood 20 feet away, halfway through a pallet of toothpaste. Her barcode gun vibrated in her hand. She watched the blade in the manager's fist and the way the dock crew went quiet. No one looked straight at it. Everyone looked just to the side. 60 days without a late mark and a promotion review sat on her calendar. Rent was due Friday. A math test with her daughter's name on it was tucked in her locker. A note from HR about probationary period expectations still sat unread in her inbox. Cameras blinked along the ceiling, little red dots that never blinked for you. Hey, the manager said to the young man, louder now, like volume might substitute for cents. S. Up if you're on my dock. You hear me? The young man's fingers fluttered in the space between them. A quick motion. Sorry, maybe, or wait. His mouth opened like he was about to say something, and then he didn't. She stepped between them and held out an open hand. It wasn't a grand move. She just stepped in, made a human-sized stop sign. I'll take it from here, she said. Her voice came out even. She kept her eyes on the knife, then on the manager's face, and only then on the young man's hands. The manager blinked, surprised she was in the frame. No, he said. He's out. Stealing straps. That's shrink. He moved like he might cut another thing just to prove a point. Mara pointed with her chin at the vending machine by the time clock, the one loaded with box cutters, gloves, and straps. Charge me, she said. She didn't add, sir. She didn't add, please. He needs a strap. He doesn't need his stuff cut up. The manager's walkie crackled. Bay 1 ready, someone said. He didn't answer. A vein jumped in his neck. He looked past her, over her head, as if hoping another adult would appear and end the scene for him. She thumbed her badge at the strap vending machine and watched her balance drop. The machine thunked and delivered a coiled strap in a plastic bag. If anyone was counting, that was $15 she hadn't planned to spend. It ran through her head in a quick line, $15 the last quarter tank of gas, the cheap cereal she'd promised her kid, the overdue library fine. The young man stared at her, then at the strap in her hand. He touched his chest with two fingers like he was asking if it was for him. She nodded and tried a small sign she remembered from a video her daughter had showed her. You're okay. She had no idea if she did it right. Mara unthreaded her belt and tossed it to him. Use it, she said. Wrap the pallet. I'll get the strap on the bag. Her pants slipped a half-inch. She hooked her thumb through a belt loop. She felt eyes on her from the crew and the camera dotting the ceiling like a prick between her shoulder blades. Blake's jaw went tight. He looked like a man measuring a line he was about to drive over. You don't tell me how to run my dock, he said. He shot a look at the other workers. No one moved. The beeps of the forklifts kept going, a steady metronome that made everything feel more normal than it was. Then don't cut his stuff, she said. You want to write up? Write me up, but you're not cutting people's things. She kept her body in the space. She didn't raise her voice. She kept it all small and flat like a countertop. The manager lifted the radio to his mouth. Security to Bay 3, he said. He didn't look at her when he said, Hand me your badge. The room moved again. The crew started rolling, as if the magic curse had broken. Someone laughed too loud, fake and brittle. The young man wrapped the pallet with her belt, hands shaking but precise, like he had wrapped 100 pallets and would wrap 1,000 more. "Give me 5 minutes," Mara said. She didn't hand over her badge. "Let me fix his bag." She held up the strap from the vending machine like a permission slip. 5 minutes. The manager stared at her as if he was deciding whether 5 minutes was worth whatever this was. He flicked his eyes at the security guard walking toward them in a too-tight polo. He stopped looking like a man and started looking like a policy. 4, he said. "Then you're out?" She led the young man to the break table by the vending machine. In the break room, the air smelled like burnt coffee and lemon cleaner. She found a roll of silver tape in the drawer where old napkins and condiment packets lived. She threaded the new strap through the backpack's loops and reinforced the frayed edge with tape, pressing hard with the heel of her hand. The tape squealed and stuck. He watched her hands. He nodded fast. His chest rose and fell like he had been holding his breath since the cut. From the spilled mess, she slid a folded paper back into the bag. It was an appointment card for a clinic across town, audiology Tuesday at 9:10 a.m. A sweaty Ziploc held spare hearing aid batteries, a ticket stub from a bus transfer, a wrinkled flyer for basic forklift, free class, Tuesday nights, a crayon drawing, 2 stick figures under a yellow sun, peeked from a pocket. In the corner, in a child's soft hand, someone had written, "Good job." She didn't comment. She slipped the drawing deeper into the pocket so the corners wouldn't tear. She tightened the strap and tested it twice like she wanted needed. This part to be perfect. "Water?" she asked, and pointed at the fountain. He nodded. He drank like he had been told to drink and never learned how to stop. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, then stopped, then used a napkin instead. She wrote her number on a sticky note and pressed it into his palm. "If anyone messes with you, text," she said. She knew he might not. Most people didn't. It wasn't a pact. It was a tool in his pocket, like batteries. The security guard cleared his throat in the doorway. The manager stood behind him like a shadow. "We're done," he said. He didn't look at the repaired backpack. He looked at her belt loops. She handed over her badge. The plastic felt cheap and damp. It had her picture on it, her tight mouth, and the ugly ponytail she threw together for the photo. The guard took it like it was a ticket. "Suspension pending review," the manager said. He sounded tired now, like the fight had scraped him on the inside. His eyes were bloodshot. The radio hissed. Someone on the other end asked about Bay 1 again. "Okay," she said. She didn't add anything to it. She walked to her locker with the guard behind her. She took her lunch and her keys and the math test with her kid's name. She tied a piece of twine through her belt loops to keep her pants up for the walk outside. On the way out, she heard the steady rip of stretch wrap and a forklift horn. She looked back once. The young man was standing in the dark light, wrapping a pallet with her belt tight around it. He lifted his hand halfway, then let it fall back. He nodded instead. She nodded back. The next morning, she slept until the sun hit the blinds. She watered the plant in the kitchen that always looked like it was about to give up. She answered a call from HR that said words like policy and respect and investigation. She kept her answers short. On the 3rd day, she walked the block behind the warehouse. The chain-link fence rattled in a breeze. Trucks came and went. She kept her head down because it felt like a good idea not to be both suspended and loitering. A week later, she was back. Final warning, HR had said, and slid her badge back with a neutral face. No one clapped. No one threw confetti. The cameras blinked the way cameras blink. The dock looked the same and not the same. A clear bin labeled straps sat beside the bay door. Someone had stenciled a number on the lid. A Sharpie hung on a string. The manager saw her and then stared at a clipboard as if the clipboard might declare independence. He didn't say anything. He wore a new box cutter sheath and kept it snapped closed. At the start of shift huddle, the assistant lead read off lines from a printout. "No one cuts personal items," she said. "If you see something, call it in. If you need a strap, log it. If someone needs support, tag me." She didn't look up much. Her voice shook a little. A whiteboard on the wall said, "Notes," with a marker tied to it. Someone had written, "Busy day. Write what you need." Beneath it, in a different hand, there was a crude drawing of a forklift with a smiley face. The breakroom jar, once for sugar packets, now held hearing aid batteries. 3 little packs rattled in the bottom. A note taped to the jar said, "Take if you need, leave if you can." No one had signed it. The young man came in at lunch with a patched backpack slung over one shoulder. The strap held. The silver tape was neat along the edge. He walked more upright. He carried a small whiteboard on a lanyard. It had words already on it. Yes, no, water, help. He saw her near the microwave and paused. He tapped the board with the marker. He pointed at the word thanks. He tilted his head, as if asking if that was the right word. She nodded once. He smiled with one side of his mouth, quick and modest. She lifted a hand in a small wave back. She didn't make a fuss. Later, as a truck backed into Bay 2, the manager walked by with a stack of paperwork. He stopped for a second by the strap bin. He flipped the lid open, counted, closed it again. He glanced at her. Not a glare. Not an apology. A look that said, "There's a new line and I'm on it now." Small things kept adding up. One of the forklift drivers started keeping 2 spare belts tied to the rail by his seat. The assistant lead put a laminated card by the time clock with the safety hotline number in big print. Someone propped the break room door open during huddles so people in the hallway could see faces. On Thursday, a notice went up near the microwave. Company policy on respect for personal property. No one made a speech. The page hung slightly crooked, tape showing at the corners. On Friday at shift change, she saw the young man heading out. He tapped his ear and held up the jar from the break room with a little flourish, like a game show model revealing a prize. It had 1 battery pack in it now. He pointed to his backpack strap, then to the strap bin, then to her. It wasn't a thank you parade. It was the kind of quick, practical check-in you do when you live in places that don't always give you extra minutes. She stood by Bay 3 as the morning light slid along the taped strap. The hum of the building steadied in her chest. A truck door clanged up. Dust floated in the bright slice between the dock and the trailer. Her scanner chirped. She breathed once and watched the silver tape catch the sun in a clean line.